Welcome to Mental Fitness, the Gateway to Success podcast, providing business owners, leaders, and entrepreneurs with the 3 INs: insights, inspirations, and intentional actions. Delivered through monologues and dialogues, we address topics like leadership, productivity, time management, work-life balance, and challenges like stress, conflict, mental health, and much more. Please do not hold back from suggesting specific topics and guests you would like on this podcast. Greetings and welcome to this episode of Mental Fitness, the Gateway to Success. And this week is a guest episode week. And again, I have somebody from over the other side of the world who is living in the past by about 18 hours. The good thing about being in New Zealand, we're kind of ahead of everybody else. The future just exists. So with that, let's welcome Steve on to this episode today. Hey, Steve, tell us a bit about yourself.
Hey, Mikhail, and welcome. I'm so happy to be in the future. I've dreamed of it, and I love Australians. Great sense of humor, great people. Tell me about myself. I'm Steve Barton. I live in Portland, Maine, which is about 2 hours north of Boston, 7 hours north by driving from Manhattan. So that's about where I am, and I am who I am. Finally, at 70 years old, I am myself. And what does that mean? It means I've gone through a bunch of stuff and I've succeeded, I've survived, and I'm happy. I love people, I love everyone. I do it for selfish reasons. So um, I love helping people. I was in the flower business for 30 years. I started, I took over a family flower business. It started with my grandfather, who had a greenhouse, and my father worked at the local paper mill and left there. He had a nervous breakdown, and he went into the flower business. And I, talk about falling into a bucket of shit and coming out smelling like a rose. I learned at a very young age this man could do that, and we ended up having the biggest flower business in the state of Maine. And yeah, so he joined FTD, which you make the money in sending. And every mother and grandmother who can leave Maine in the wintertime leaves Maine in the wintertime. It's so cold here. So we made our money selling flowers to grandmothers and mothers who went to Florida. And that was a big portion of our business, outgoing orders. But we also did a lot of, when I took it over, it was about 200,000. I brought it to 2 million. And I did it through I love marketing. That's my favorite. That is one of my passions. I love creating things. And I love branding. I love puns. I love play on words. And so that makes a great thing for marketing. So I'm very creative, love to garden. Um, that's a whole different thing from the flower business because we bought all our flowers in already pre-cut from different places all around the world. But gardening was a whole new challenge, and I love challenges. What else? I love learning. I'm just a voracious learner. I love going down every rabbit hole that you can find. The things I find, I'm horrified by often, but it all connects. And so I love that. What else do I love everything, and there's things I don't like. I stay away from. I say no, thank you. I say
Mhm.
I'm good. I'm good.
And
I think
fantastic.
I've been married twice. I have a first wife and a final wife. Now I have a girlfriend, and we're together for 9 years, and she's my partner for as long as she wants to be with me. And, and I'm happy. I'm happy. I'm healthy. I'm healed. I'm whole, I feel abundantly grateful and gratitude in life. That's who I am.
That's beautiful, beautiful.
Thank
I
you.
love that, Steve. And like I really like the personal touch again. About like Greg, you being open about that and the ups and the downs and who you have become and ex-wives and that whole journey. I really love the way you started, which is you said, I am myself. That is who I am. And you said you're on the older age of the scheme and you have finally arrived at that, which I think is it's just so beautiful. And I think to some level we all want that. Like we just want to be us.
Yeah.
And there's so much pressure around us to be everything else than than what society thinks we should be, our parents and all of that. And for you to come to a place of breaking free of that, since this podcast is about mental fitness, to me, that just shows that you have built that mental fitness along the way. And then I love the analogy with what was the shit to roses, So gardening is that, like, because there's a compost, and it can be really smelly, and it turns into this. My wife and I, we do, and our whole family actually, we do compost and daisies at dinner time. So the compost is some shit that happened today we didn't like, and then what are the daisies that grew out of that today?
Yeah.
So I can recommend that journey to others. Well, thank you for that, and thank you for being here, Steve. I really appreciate that. From Maine, and it must be summer there because it's winter here as
Oh,
well.
a beautiful day. I spent a few hours in the garden today in the yard, mowed the lawn, and my girlfriend said, "Wow, she likes neat." Okay, she's a great housekeeper and great cook, and but I'm in charge of the outside, and I got her seal of approval today. She goes, "Oh, it looks so gorgeous. It's really just sharp and neat and edging and mulch and so." So it's fun.
There's
It's
something
fun.
about working in the soil, isn't it? Because I'm
Yeah.
not a gardener.
Mhm.
And for the last number of years, I've become one. We grow our own vegetables and a
Yep.
bit of fruit and
Yeah.
things like, and all the herbs. And I mean, I
Yeah.
do juice every morning and I get all the green stuff out of the garden for the green part of the juice. And there's just something about being
Yeah.
connected to the earth and the soil. Like there's a groundedness to it, would you say?
Absolutely. And it's I mean scientific. We are grounded, we are part of the earth. We're about, I don't want to get too metaphysical here, but we are all part of the earth. We're, yeah, and we are energetic beings that we need to be grounded. And yeah, so I'm into the seed growing part now. And so
Yeah.
I bought on TikTok shop, pun to TikTok shop. I bought a thing that you can just grow. You have lights in it. So I'll be growing a lot more of my own. The stores right now are so expensive for things. They've doubled in price since COVID. It's amazing. So I'm starting to
Mm.
grow my own stuff, and that's even fascinating and rewarding to do that. So
Oh,
yeah,
very, very. The first time, probably about 5 years ago, I grew some parsley and then just left it there. And then suddenly there were seeds there, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. And the amount of seeds that came out of one parsley plant was
yeah,
like literally thousands. And I was
yeah,
so amazed, hung it up, dried it, put it in the ground a few months later, and then parsley just grew everywhere. And
yeah.
and I know like that shouldn't surprise me, but it was
Mhm.
just like, wow,
Yeah,
nature is so abundant.
isn't it?
And we tend, including me, to step into the opposite of that inside our minds. And I also really like you saying you love marketing because we desperately need that because I hate marketing. So there
Okay.
you go. We need people who love that side because I find that challenging. All right, mental fitness. Mental
Mental
fitness. What does
fitness.
mental fitness mean to you?
It means to be happy, healthy, abundant, healed, and whole at the
Let's
level
just
of
just just
10.
check that in. That was can you do that again, please?
Happy, healthy. So oftentimes I say wealthy or abundant, same thing. Healed and whole.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah,
That's beautiful. Thank you for that.
you're
Um,
welcome.
I'm not even going to elaborate on that because I don't know what to add to that. That's great. What I am going to do then is look at and I'm inviting you to share some stories, which is really what this podcast is about. So from what you shared earlier and what you just shared now, I have a feeling that it wasn't always like that in your life. So
No.
somewhere along the way, you learned that somewhere along the way, some things didn't work out for you because you didn't have the mental fitness to pull it off at the time. So I would love for you to share a story or two of that with our audience if you're okay with that.
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, I'm an open book. I have discretion. But it's also, I'm willing to share. I have no secrets. If someone wants to know my deepest secrets, I'd want to ask why. And then I'd say, okay. So I was 36 years old when I was running the flower shop. I took it over when I was 22. My father had a stroke. He was at an FTD convention in Kansas City, Missouri. I get a phone. I was leaving for Europe to study floral design, and because I was doing working in the flower shop since I was 8 years old. And so I loved it. I loved with my grandfather, I was in the greenhouse, and with my father, I was in the flower shop. I was making, after school, I was making plastic flower arrangements because that's before the silk flowers came out, they were plastic. And I was making plastic floral arrangements and they were selling. And so I loved it. And I knew I never had to think about what I wanted to do when I grew up because I was doing it when I was 8 years old. So, but I also knew that I couldn't work with my father either.
Mm.
And it was difficult. I talk about generational traumas. My grandfather, I saw it. My father, I saw it less in him. And then I inherited some of those as well. And I was 36 years old when my first wife was working at LL Bean. That's a famous mail order company in headquarters in Maine. She started at 4 to midnight, hard worker, smart, graduated fashion merchandise 2 years. Started 4 to midnight shift. They opened 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. She was working 4 to midnight. So we were like ships in the wind. And she worked from the floor of the retail store to vice president while I was married to her. And one of the things she said was, and what I hired actually a executive from Ella Bean to the flower shop. She just had burnout, and they'd burn them out. Okay, great company, and they hired great people, but they would 80 out 60, 80 hours a week expected. Yeah. So, and the person I hired was going to therapy. And 33 years ago, you didn't go to therapy and you didn't talk about it. And I was curious about it. I thought to myself, I'm not happy.
Mm.
And so I asked my wife at the time, I said, what's the name of that guy that everyone goes to at Beans? She said, his name's Larry Roy. And they all go there because they're all type A personalities, can't do enough, can't work enough hours of the day, and they're not happy. So they're going to Larry. So I went to see the wizard and I made an appointment with Larry. And first question he asked me was, why are you here? I said, I have everything in the world that I want. I'm not happy. That is, I said another word, but that's messed up. And he laughed. And I go, how long is it going to take and what can I expect? Because I had no clue, zero clue. And he said, typically I say 3 months, you're halfway there because I knew I was messed up. And the second part, he says mental health. And that meant absolutely nothing to me. I had no clue what mental health was. So that was the beginning. But what was also happening was I was, before I even went, I was reading A Course in Miracles. I was reading Stephen Covey's Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. I would walk into a bookstore and this book would just like, whoop, some, I forget his name, The Prophet. I was walked into a bookstore and that book came out. It's like, I had to buy it because this is too weird. And stuff like that, metaphysical stuff was happening, and I didn't know what it was. I couldn't explain it, and then uh, he says, the first session, I spewed out everything that ever happened to me from the time could remember
Mm.
to the time I was 36, and it was like I just I got on a roll and I started saying, this happened, this happened, this happened. Oh yeah, that happened too, and that happened too. It was like this pile of just psychic garbage, shitty stuff, traumas, abuse, guilt, shame, just nastiness that I had held in that never shared with anybody. And I go, wow, that it was like a pile in the middle of the floor, it seemed like. And I said, that felt really good. I go, I'm leaving that here. And he laughed. He goes, I don't want it. I said, not my problem. That's what you get. Have your cleaning lady take it. I don't care. So I asked him, I said, any homework assignments? And because I had no clue what therapy was. And he says, you know what you need to do. And I'm thinking, I actually don't, but I kind of do because I was reading A Course in Miracles and I knew I had to forgive my father. And that's a whole half-hour podcast in and of itself because it took me 2.5 hours to get him to talk to me. And once I did, it was deep, it was honest. I asked him questions, he answered them honestly. There was infidelity in the family. There was lying in the family. There was abuse in the family. There was, just all the stuff. And he said, I'm ashamed of it, but I just said, I love you. Thank you. And I left there. I grew up in the 70s and 80s, so I did cocaine maybe 20 times in my entire life. And I stopped because I liked it. It was like, but I left on a cocaine high naturally. And that was my homework assignment, I thought. And I went there to Larry, the therapist. I said, Larry, I go to my session. I go, Larry, I'm on a cocaine high. Does this happen to all your patients? He says, no. And so I said, well, it's happened to me and I like it and it's free, it's natural, and I'm digging it. So this is great. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I want to get higher. Okay, because that's who I am. That's who I am. And I don't want to do heroin. I never have done heroin. I don't want to do illicit drugs. I don't. Uh, so the second session, told him what happened, told him I forgave my father. We hugged, and it was like the first and only father-son conversation we ever had. And it was just amazing. So I left. So on the second session, any homework assignments? He said, he stood at the door and he said, read the redemption. And I'm going, okay, another treasure hunt. I'm going, what the is it? What's the redemption? We have, in America, we have, you take your bottles to the store and you get a clink, whatever they have in Australia, but you get 5 cents, 10 cents, 15 cents for a bottle. That's the only redemption I'd ever heard of. So I looked in we had a big, thick 1800s family Bible. There was no glossary in there. And so I looked in that, couldn't find it. And but I had this idea pop in my head. Maybe it's in A Course in Miracles. And I look in A Course in Miracles, the fear of redemption. And I started reading it. And I got halfway down the page and I look up and I'm leaving my body. I was connected, I was stepping out and I was connected at my left ankle. And I had a vision of me on the couch, my family coming in. He's under a lot of stress at work. They had a conversation. He died of a heart attack. Okay. And the other one was I made a deal. I said, I'm coming. I said, I ain't leaving. I'm too happy. I'm not leaving. And I threw the book across the room and I said the F word about 30 times, maybe more, because I knew that God would not take me if I said the F word enough times. And that's the only thing I had to go on to stay in my body and to be, but that moment changed my life.
Mm.
And I think about it every day, and I let it go, but I know that it's, I know I'm not special, but I know I had a special event. That's a good one. It's a special event that I can't not forget. And it made me want to just be myself, to be that light and align with that light with my personality.
Mm.
And that's who I am. That's what I do. That's anyone out there who's had these experiences. Oh, the best part is when I told my parents and wife about this stuff, that's a whole other podcast. It didn't go as planned.
Yeah.
Didn't it was not well received. Let me say.
It's too much, Steve. That was too much.
It was too much. And that's what my final wife said to me as she said, I don't want to be married anymore. You're too much.
Too
And I'm
much.
thinking, and even when she said that, I was thinking, I'm really quite enough.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
For me.
And yeah, and you were not willing to lower yourself into less in order to fit in with that. And I honor you for that. And
Thank
I
you.
didn't have an as extreme experience as you. But when I was 27, I had a life transforming experience that was really, really deep. And I I essentially lost about 80% of my friends after that because people couldn't take it. It was just like,
Yeah.
looking back, I went over the top because I was saved, I thought I knew everything about, and everybody had to go and do what I did so they could be saved as well. Let's
Yeah.
send everybody to Larry the Wizard because everybody needs, and many people obviously they're not ready for that.
Yeah.
So it took me a couple of years to get my feet back on the ground and realize what actually happened within me. And that's for me where my passion for helping other people came in. It's like, okay, I need to tone it down and I need to
Yeah.
find a way of communicating what I have experienced to other people in a way that they get so it's beneficial to them. Otherwise, shut up because why even talk about it if people are not getting it? And that's still my journey now. 40 years later, I'm still battling that, walking on that edge. Oh, I probably said too much there. Oh, can I do, yeah? And finding. And I guess that's why I'm not good at marketing because and I don't know exactly what to do
Yeah.
and say to get the
Yeah.
right message
Yeah.
across. And also what happened to me, similar to you with my parents, at that point in those couple of years, of course, I had to change my parents because they were obviously wrong, and they didn't understand what I understood. So my mission then became to save my parents until one point, the main teacher at the time for me said one thing, said all you need to do with your parents is you will not live a complete life until you have completed your relationship with your parents. And that went, oh shit, how do I do that? So I sat down with my parents and all I said, hey guys, I just want you to know that I really appreciate you making me. I really love you. And that was it. And it was just that. It was, I no longer had to change my parents. And the freedom for me in that, and the freedom for them, not having to live up to the son
Yeah.
wanting them to be something, culminating in a time where actually I got into firewalking and my dad, at the age I am now,
Mhm.
back in last century, came and did a firewalking course with me where we ended up walking across the red glowing coals holding hands. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't get a better experience with your parents than that. So
Yeah. I love it. That's great. That's great. My experience was the opposite of yours. And it continued. I'll have to say one thing. My parents were consistent. I give them credit for that. They were consistent. And I forgive them. I love them. They passed a couple of years ago, both of them at 91. And so they had a great life. They still, till the day they died, they thought I was crazy. So they were consistent. And I love that they thought I was crazy, which means I'm basically sane.
Sure.
So,
That's great.
yep,
That's great. Yeah, I
yep,
mean, in a way, we have a similar experience because that's the way it was with my mother. I still loved her and that, but
yep,
we could not talk about these things. She could not relate to it. I was a banker. And I
yep,
was in the beginning of the computer industry, and my mother could go say, "Oh, my son is a banker, and he's working in this new computer things, and he's educating people." And no, I fitted into her box, and then I
yep,
started doing this crazy shit, and and
yep.
and it didn't fit in her box. Whereas for my
No,
dad, he was curious. He was like, "Oh, that good on you, son. Yeah, yeah." Like he didn't understand it, but he supported me in that. So I had one parent coming on board and another parent, like with your parents doing the other. So we all need Larry the Wizard. Like
Larry the Wizard, Larry Roy, I'm sure he's passed now. He was 70, 30 years ago. So
so he,
I'm pretty sure that he's
but I'm
Larry, if you're out there, love you.
yeah,
Oh,
but I'm
the best part. Okay, in between me having the out of body experience, people were coming in the flower shop with their dead relatives, and they were confirming it, and it was like I was on a high that, and I learned I shut my mouth quickly. You know, I didn't want to change anybody. And my staff, I started preaching a bit, which is kind of typical.
yeah.
And one of them said, they took me upstairs. If you don't stop, we're all going to quit. So I just said, I'm stopping. I'm going through something. I don't know what I'm going through, but I promise you, I will not say a word about it to anybody anymore. So I
Mhm.
got threatened. That was enough. And I love her for that. And yeah, she told me like it was. You stop now. And so I did.
Great, and I'm gonna say congratulations to both her and you because obviously you had created a work environment where she was probably not comfortable, but she was okay to actually say that instead of just quitting. So that's
Yeah,
a testament to way that you probably ran
yeah,
that team of people, and then
yeah.
she needed to have a reasonably high level of mental fitness herself because I
She
don't think it
did.
would have been easy for her to do that to her boss. But it was
She did.
important enough for her, and then she had the mental strength to
Yeah,
to do that. So great examples there.
yeah.
So
So
let's
I
hear,
go back.
yeah, Mike, carry on.
So I go back. So I go back to Larry. I told him what happened. On my third session, and he goes, I go, Larry, I don't know whether to be pissed at you or thank you. What? Why? What? I said, I read the redemption and I had an out of body experience. I'm higher than a kite. I can't come down. I don't want to come down. I don't know how to come down, but I am higher than a kite. I think I'm on a heroin high. And he goes, what did you do? And I said, I read the redemption like you told me to at the doorway as I was leaving. And his response was, I didn't tell you to read. I don't know what you're talking about. I said, Larry, I said, you know what? I've had so much weird shit happen the past few weeks, the past month and a half. It's like, I believe you. I believe you. And she goes, do you have some good teachers around you? And sure enough, I had like three people, two men and a woman, all spiritually aligned, awake, awoke. They came to me. And it's like, are you ready? One came in, are you ready yet? I go, I don't know, what are you talking about? Finally, because finally he came in after I had the out of bodies. He goes, I was going across the South Portland Bridge and I got this message that you were ready. I go, oh, what is going on? So I had some great mentors, great people, and I overcame what others thought that was a disorder that was perfectly aligned with what is and who we are. It's still I don't know how it works, and I think that's what gives me curiosity. I don't know. It works differently for other people. Other people have different experiences. And I think that's what it's all about. It's our experiences,
Mhm.
everyone's life and everyone's journey. There's no right or wrong. There are consequences, of course, and there are laws and play stupid games, win stupid prizes. So
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
and
So
my experience and my journey along the last 40 years has been different to yours, and there are similarities. So, that's why I'm sitting here kind of smiling and laughing because I can relate to a lot of the things that you're saying, and also it is different. But one thing that we have in common is that I don't understand it either. And I spent
it,
many years in this journey trying to understand it, thinking I had to understand it in order to support other people in it. And
yeah,
until eventually I realized actually I don't. And
yeah,
most likely I will never understand it because I actually don't think our human intellectual brain mind even has the capacity to understand. It's not within its scope. And
no,
when I could let go of that, that allowed me to just be in that place and just like really enjoy and appreciate and have gratitude for that space and then ask myself the question, what do I want to do with this? And at
yeah,
one level, I don't want to do anything with it. I just want to sit in and enjoy it. But then there's another thing within me that is driving me and say, you can't do that. You need to share this with those people who are open or interested or want that. So that's what
yeah,
I've been doing for the last 30 years as plus as a business.
yeah,
Um, and the toughest part of that for me is the business. It's not this stuff. This stuff is
yeah,
easy for it's easy for me because I only just talk from my experience and people
yeah.
take whatever works for them.
Mhm.
It's the business, the marketing side of it that's my challenge. But this is not about
It,
me today. You can either carry on your story or you can jump into some other time in your life where you created some, like a significant shift or growth or learning or business or something. And we will relate that into mental fitness because what you went through with Larry, up until that point, you did not have the mental fitness required to go into that journey yourself.
no,
But you had mental fitness enough to go to Larry the Wizard.
yeah,
And if you were completely mentally unfit, you would refuse to go and get help. You would just,
yeah.
no, no, it's not for me. Can't help me. Oh, I'm a lost case. And you would just stay on the couch and complain, but you didn't.
I didn't know I had feelings.
Hmm. Oh,
I
the
was
F
very
word. The F
Oh,
word.
the other F word, my two favorite F words. And so I was always taught you shouldn't feel that way.
Hmm.
Why do you feel that way? You're wrong. So I finally gave up on having feelings. So I was 36 years old when I finally said, I've got feelings.
Hmm.
So that was probably the biggest aha moment in my life was that I have feelings. And oh, I pity, from Mr. T, I pity the sucker who says you shouldn't feel that way today. It's still a trigger. I said, I have the feelings that I have, and it's not your place to ever say that how I should feel, because this is how I feel. This is what I think, and this is what I'm going to do. So I pity the suckers who come up to me that say, you shouldn't feel that way. It's just
Hmm.
the wrong. Anyone out there, don't say that to me. I
Hmm.
probably laugh, and if I don't know you, waste my time on somebody who says that. But that was the biggest revelation that I have feelings and they are valid. And that's when my intuition, even to this day, is and the stuff that I know, the stuff that I experience, I most of the time shut my mouth.
Hmm.
because because I have wisdom now at
Yes.
70. I have discretion.
Yeah.
I have compassion for others that think it's weird. I run a business, I actually coach intuition. And my first client was the head of the Gestalt International Studies Center. I mean, your mental fitness is the ability to meet life's challenges in a positive way. And the Gestalt International Study Center, which is in Wellfleet, Cape Cod, Mass, was now it's in Boston. was awareness is the key.
Mm.
It's awareness. And it's our awareness is God. Awareness is source. Awareness is the collective consciousness. Awareness is the internet of spiritual, the net that we're all one. So it's kind of aware. It is the same. And their thing was having an optimistic stance.
No.
An optimistic stance. You have these coaches out there who are doing positive thinking. I mean, that's so old. It's like, I mean, yeah, it's just it doesn't get it gets you in my game of 10, which we'll talk about later, but I call that the game often played. You can get to 9 by positive thinking. Everything's awesome. That's awesome. It's like, no, it isn't. I just stepped in a shit. I gotta clean it off and be late. So it's not awesome. Not everything is awesome, but it's how you handle it and how you respond to it.
Mm.
And without getting angry at somebody and blaming somebody and all that stuff. It's how you act with grace and gratitude and deal and laugh. Good
Yes.
stuff. You know?
Yeah.
So
Definitely, and I love that, like coming at it from those different angles and that. And as soon as you mention the word awareness, I'm smiling again because that's my word. And whenever I work with somebody, my first session with a new client, I write it up on a whiteboard at the top in green in big letters and say, "This is all I have. This is my
mhm.
product. I'm not
Yeah,
here to tell you what to do. It's none of my business.
yeah,
I'm here to make you more and more aware of you so that you can make better choices.
mhm,
Because I'm not going to make the choices for you, like whether you should get divorced or not, whether you should quit your job or not, whether you should start another business or not. How can I know that?
yeah,
But you know. And if you're not conscious of that knowing, then my job is to bring you in touch with that knowing so that you can make the better choices. And that's for me what awareness brings. The more aware we are of anything, whether it's cars, the more aware of
yeah,
cars, and you can do better choices with them. The more aware you are of coffee, and the more aware you are of women,
yeah,
the better choices you can make when you're around them, and on and on and on. So for
yeah,
me, obviously, the more aware we are of ourselves, the better choices we can make for ourselves.
yeah. Well, we attract who we are. So if we're unhealed, we're going to attract that unhealed woman with daddy
Damn.
issues.
Damn.
No, no, they will hide it for a while,
Yes.
but then you become daddy, and daddy was daddy was not good to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And feelings, absolutely. I got a friend who shared that when it's the F word, or we can't use the F word around here, and took me a little while before I caught on to that it was the other F word.
yeah,
So feelings and as you said, the reality is we have them. The,
yeah,
the 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 question is, are we aware of them and how deeply aware of them we are? And the more aware of them we are, the better equipped we are to meet them and deal with it. And then the higher our mental fitness is, the more
yeah,
capable we are of meeting those feelings without
yeah,
getting frustrated, without getting angry, and
yeah.
meet the challenges in front of us in a positive way.
100%. And have our feelings taken away from us in society.
Yes.
We're told how to feel. And there's a disconnect, and that's why there's so much abuse of drugs, alcohol, porn. All the addictions separate us from who we are, and we're trying to fill in that gap with other things. And when those other things aren't healthy for us, they overtake us.
Yes.
So, yeah, so that's what my definition of addiction is when a something, fill in the blank, overtakes you. You know, I'm not religious at all, but I'm overtaken by God. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yes.
not at all that's the only thing I want to be addicted to.
Yeah.
And God's will and my will are one. Whatever, you do it. I'm not in charge. Okay. So I go with the flow and I set my intentions and have great intentions and set goals and I use my intuition and I'm
Mm.
aligned and I'm not in charge. And such a relief.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's such a relief. I can only focus it up. Not focus it up. What's the other? Feeling it up.
Yeah.
That didn't sound good either. But that didn't sound good. So I can only F it up. Okay. Let me put it
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
And
So
that is it. I mean, that is such a powerful insight, isn't it? Like, I had that insight as well somewhere along the way, is that like if I thought I was in charge, ha ha ha. I mean, because if I actually truly was in charge, my life
yeah.
wouldn't have unfolded the way it unfolded because it did
Yeah.
not unfold the way I wanted it to unfold. And still to this day, there are things that are not unfolding the way I want them to unfold. So if I was in charge, that wouldn't be that way. So I know I'm not in charge. And
Yeah.
and
But
and and that creates a freedom, doesn't it? Like there's a
it,
freedom. It's like we can now relax and go, okay, and then we can follow our intuition, whether we call it intuition or gut feeling or connecting to source or connecting to God. Uh,
Mhm.
I don't care what language people are using. To me,
Whatever.
it's all the same.
Me too. We're on that page. My favorite, one of my favorite jokes is, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's
that's a
such a
good
good
that's
one.
a
Eh?
good one. That's
It's
a
a
good
really
one.
good one. It's a
The
really
knee
good
slapper. The knee slapper.
one. Denise. So, I mean, time is just running here with you. It's just fantastic. I love hearing the way you're sharing these things. It's just fantastic. So, but we can't carry on forever. But we can do it again in some other time. So, I want to get towards the last couple of usual questions, and I want to hear a bit more about what you're doing. But before that, you have mentioned Larry the Wizard as one way that helped you grow your mental fitness. Is there anything else along your journey? It might be books or courses or experiences or failures, or what would you say a couple of things from your life that helped you to grow your mental fitness the most?
I'm a big proponent of failure to learn. Get kicked in the butt, having losing everything, two marriages. I mean, that was those two that was the hardest thing. My first wife, after I had my experience, um, for a year separate bedrooms. It was a bad roommate situation. She thought I was crazy. So after a year, I remember the morning she was drinking coffee and she goes, I still think you're crazy. I said, oh, in the meantime, I had an apartment building and the single unit came available because I gave it a year in my mind. And I'm thinking, and so that unit came available. And I'm thinking, you know, no accidents. And so that that was empty. Um, and when in the morning she goes, I still think you're crazy. I said, I am
But I like it.
effing, I am effing crazy. Do you know how crazy I am? What are you talking about? I said, I'm crazy. Well, why are you saying that? I said, because I'm living with you.
Ouch.
I know. Thank you. Thank you. Because I'm living with you and you don't love me. And I took a pillow and I took a quilt and I left. And I went to that apartment. I laughed. I just like, what the,
You
I
are
just
crazy.
laughed. The best,
It's
I am
fantastic.
crazy. And the best part about it was the flower shop was across the street from the apartment building. And I come home from work and she'd taken the quilt I took and gave me one with a hole in it. And I was just rolling on the floor. I said, "Oh my God, how did I put myself through that?" That was the first one. The second one was I got a text. Can we talk? I said, "Yeah," with two hearts. Get a text. Can we talk? I said, "Heart, heart." That was a heart, two hearts in it. Sure. Um, our talk was, I want you out of the house. I want a divorce. So, so those two things were probably the most powerful learning lessons that I had in my
Mm,
entire life because I had
yeah.
a 13-year-old son at the time. I had sold all of my income producing assets, put it into a joint account. We had a prenup, and I I was married into one of the wealthiest families in Maine. And I left, and she accused me of marrying her for her money. I ended up leaving with less money than I went into the marriage with. So I have to laugh.
It's not,
I laugh.
marriage is not a good financial investment in general.
Yeah,
You
that
know.
and cars, that and automobiles, unless they're antiques.
Yep.
Yep, yep. So now
Ah.
I'm happily dating my girlfriend for nine
Yeah.
years.
Yes, keep dating.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
I think it's a great attitude. No, good.
yeah.
And thank you for sharing. Thank you for being open about that, Steve. I love that. I love that. So,
Those are good ones. Those are good ones. I have so many.
yeah. So this is a completely different podcast episode to anything else I've done. It is great. I love it. Like it's just, yeah,
Yeah,
awesome, awesome. So,
I'm not normal. I am natural. I'm definitely not normal. I'm just not.
oh,
I
that's
don't want to be normal. I am so
no.
natural.
I'm glad we are so in agreement on that. Thank you for pointing that out. As I sometimes say to people, the biggest insult you can give me is telling me that I'm normal.
Hmm.
Because that will be an insult to me. Because the last thing I
I,
want to be is
I
normal.
do.
So if I come across normal, I'm really not doing good. Really
Do
not
you
doing
know
good.
that? Do you know that I was taught by one of my floral design teachers? It's okay to be different, but don't be weird. But you know where weird comes from? It comes from Old English of wired in. So the people that were called weirdos, the weird ones, were wired in, but they were the witches. I'm in no way in any, I don't think the witches, they worshiped nature. They were the Wiccas. They were misnamed. They worshiped nature.
Hmm.
And that went against the church, and that was evil and satanic and blah blah
Mhm.
blah. It was
Right.
a bad narrative, and but they were natural, and that was not looked highly upon by um, the normies.
Mm, mm. I'm,
Mhm.
I'm gonna take that weird wired in. So
Check it
I'm
out. Check it
open.
out. I'd love to hear find out what you find out. But that's what
Yeah,
I found out. It was wired in
I'm,
Old
I'm gonna
English.
I'm gonna research that a bit because I
Yep.
like being weird and
Mhm.
I got a client here locally who has been a client for like over 12 years
Mhm.
in the biggest business here in the village. And I was working there last week, coaching and doing team building and stuff like that. And we're working with new staff, and he's taking them through a bit about the business that they're working in. And then he introduces me, and he always introduces me the same way. So here's Mikhail, here's my weird friend. He's pretty weird, but he's openly introducing me like that. So you can see that the guys sitting there and the gals in the audience, they kind of go, huh? You know? And I love that. Like he's really open and he really truly thinks I'm weird.
Yeah,
But he keeps
that's
working
that.
with me because I keep challenge his edge and keep him growing within himself by being weird. So it's all a big laugh, and I love that when people introduce me as the weird friend.
I love that.
Um, so the last part for today, Steve, is one, share with our audience a tool or two, like something you can't send them to Larry the Wizard, but you could say, like there's nothing wrong with going to another Larry the Wizard and get some support or read this book, The Course in Miracles, or like anything like that.
Uh,
But I also
of
want to
course.
hear a bit more, maybe also ties into what it is that you are doing
Mhm.
these days. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I'm doing executive coaching. It's a mask. I also do intuitive coaching. My first client was the head of the Gestalt International Study Center. I channeled her husband who passed away two and a half years prior in front of the whole group. And because I the night before we were at Provincetown in Halloween. So anyone who knows Provincetown, on Halloween night, it's pretty wild. And so there were five of us there. I was doing readings with everybody and just nailing it, nailing it, nailing it. And so my first client was a founder, and she was, and she also was an executive from AT&T. So I wrote a book with my son. He was 18 uh, 4 years ago, and 6 years ago now, I think. I don't know. He was 18 at the time. Now he's 24, 6 years ago. So was writing the book, and I said, can I put my, she hired me 4 days into the coaching set. I thought I was a fish out of water. What the hell am I doing here? Everyone's executives, I mean, I was a florist. I got my financial advisor. Was a financial advisor for a while, but what the hell am I doing here? I was like, had so much FOMO. I mean, not FOMO, but FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And, uh, and 4 days into it, she goes, I channeled her husband in front of the whole group, and it was nailed it. Got his name, he came through, and she next day she in front of the whole group said, "What you saw last night was a gift that Steve has. We can teach him to use the model, the Cape Cod model at the Gestalt International Study Center. Blah 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 blah. It's a gift; it can't be taught. Blah 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 blah." And da 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 da. Everyone leaves. She comes up to me, Steve, can you teach me how to do what you do? I said, yep. So she was my first client. And and the amazing stories are in my book, The Father, the Son, and the Aha Moment. It's on Amazon. Or go to my website, www.stevebartoncoaching.com. Download it for free. Nothing's free. You're going to get 5 emails for my coaching. So she says, she goes, Steve, there's just one thing. You said that I was the head of HR for AT&T North America for 30 years. I said, yeah. She goes, I was head of the world. I said, of course you were. Of course you were. She's one of my dearest friends. Now we talk about every month and a half. We Zoom. She's a long story, but the story's in the book. It's really good. How she met her current partner, and because when I was channeling, she says she was from Arkansas, and she says, "I've asked you to find me a man." She's talking to Ralph. Her husband. I first go, "Who's Ralph?" That's my husband. He comes through, and about 10 minutes into that channeling, whatever you want to call it. Um, I've asked you to find me a man. And so she goes, I have. Ralph goes, I have. He looks just like Joe Garagiola. Probably don't know who he is, but he was a famous New York Yankees pitcher in the 60s and became a Today Show host. And people were Googling Joe Garagiola, blah, blah, blah. Nobody knew who he was. And so, so it's a long story, but bottom line is, she meets this guy who's her best friend, comes over from Sweden. He's Swedish. He comes over from Sweden. She lives across the Hudson River in New Jersey. And she calls me. She goes, Steve, my best friend's brother's here. And we got out the brochures for Manhattan to send them over to Trade Center One and all the things that see Manhattan. And he says, I didn't come here to see Manhattan. I came here to see you. She goes, but he doesn't look like Joe Garagiola. I said, Marianne, that's who Ralph picked for you. Just go with it. Vic, if you like him, go with him. He was a widower. They knew each other. Uh, they'd had dinner with he and his wife, and she met her husband, Ralph. And so fast forward 5 years, they've been together now about 6 or 7 years. And about a couple years ago, we're on a Zoom call. She's in Sweden. She goes, do you want to meet um, his name's Anders. I said, yeah. She goes, my friends think he looks like Joe Garagiola. I said, yep. You don't know, do you?
No.
You don't know. I don't know. I love not knowing. I love not knowing.
It's an openness.
I love not knowing. It's so much easier. I don't know. What's going to happen tomorrow? I don't know. Yep.
Great story, and thank you for mentioning your book. We'll make sure to the website you mentioned. We will have that in the description below, and we will also have the title of your book. So make sure you get that to me after our conversation here, and put all that in the
Yep.
description. We got another couple of minutes. Is there anything else you want to share with our audience
I've got a
before
new
we?
book coming out. I got a new book coming out called The Game of 10, which is I can leave your people with six phrases that will quiet their mind. I have ADHD, if you haven't noticed. And 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 I love it. And I work with it, and it works with me, and it works for me. And sometimes I'm too much for people, obviously, but I'm just enough for me. And this will explain how I quiet my mind. I'm never able to sit down with TM, Transcendental Meditation. That never worked for me ever.
Mhm.
So what does work for me, and I do it probably 5 times a day because it takes 20 seconds to do it, is six phrases. And why don't we do it together? Okay.
Hmm?
Do you mind? All right.
Sure.
And so when I say the game of 10 is all about where I am awareness. I am an aspect of the divine. Okay? It's basically saying it's what it is. I am who I am. It is what it is. I'm connected to that. And so that's what 10 is. And a lot of Christians have a hard time with that, but I sent it to one of my Christian friends. There's six phrases in the Bible that says just that. Okay. He
Mhm.
goes, I sent it to him about a year ago. He goes, oh, thanks. I appreciate that. We've been friends ever since. So the first phrase is I am 10. Go ahead, Mikhail. I am 10.
I'm 10.
I'm doing the best that I can with the awareness that I have.
I'm doing the best that I can with the awareness that I have.
I'm always right with the awareness that I have.
I'm always right with the awareness I have. Hmm.
I am enough.
I am enough.
I do enough.
I do enough.
I have enough.
I have enough.
I know.
How cool is that?
Isn't that the best?
And it just shifts. It just that. And how many seconds to that? Less than a minute. And
20
it
seconds,
is just
30 seconds.
shifting,
It quiet,
just
it
shifting my
shuts off.
state.
It shuts down the ego, always chattering. It's trying to, you've answered all its questions.
Hmm.
It's it is I can't think of anything more perfect other than my son. Okay. And my life. But it's just eloquent. And the first phrase is a declaration of who we are, everyone. It's the second two phrases are declarations of our innocence, divine innocence. The next three phrases, I am, I do, and I have, put us in present moment awareness.
Hmm.
And it completes the time with present moment awareness with present moment. Infinite time and infinite space is enough.
Hmm.
Mm,
What a beautiful
so
way to end. Well, we'll make sure that we put those into the show notes as well, and people will be able to find all of that on your website as well, I assume.
it's in the book. So download the book for free, buy it on Amazon. I get $4, I think, for every book sold. It's like,
Yeah,
it's,
it's hard to make money on writing books. I've written
it's,
several.
it's
It's
right. Right. Unless you get an Oprah's book club or somebody's book club that says you're the best thing since sliced bread. Yep.
yeah. And
Yep.
my language, like for what we just did there, and those few seconds of coming into the present, because I did those hours and hours sitting cross-legged on a cushion meditating for years.
Mhm.
And that was the right thing for me at the time until I dropped it and say, this ain't working for me any longer.
Yep.
And how do I teach or share that with business people? And in that, I
Mhm.
had to completely redo it, rewire it. And out of that, I created a term called meditation snacking. And a meditation snack can be like a 10-second, 15-second, 20 seconds, half a minute. And just do that throughout the day. Just these
Yep.
moments of just
Yep.
stopping,
Yep.
taking a
Yep.
breath, or just
It's a reset.
appreciating something, gratitude, like anything, just stop.
It's a mindset reset.
Yes.
Yep. It's a reboot. stuff's happening, say those phrases, know it's done. Another portion of it is letting go, because what it also does opens up a whole can of warpaths from your subconscious.
Hmm.
So also find out what's coming up and do your own practice of forgiveness,
Hmm.
whatever works for you. I have a practice that I teach and coach, but do you have, it will open up some, your ego will come and say, yeah, you're not enough. Remember this? Remember you did this? It will come up. So that's when you have to just nip it in the bud because it wants to come out. And those phrases open up your awareness to it coming out. So
Thank,
just be aware of that for your audience. Let it go. Use your own, or make an appointment with me. Say, I've just opened a whole can of whoop, Steve. You've ruined my life. So, so just get on my schedule. I'll teach you how to let it go. But if you have your own, most people have their own way of
I'm
forgiveness,
doing.
and so important.
So, in a roundabout way, you have ended up becoming Larry the Wizard. So, I just want to
Yeah.
acknowledge you for that and for the journey you've been through. And I really want to thank you for coming on this podcast today and so openly and hilariously sharing that part. Really appreciate that. So, thank you so much for joining us today.
It was my pleasure, Mikhail, and I hope to see you again. And I love weird people. They're my friends. The people I used to think were weird now are my friends.
That is
Yeah,
great. And
I love
to
it.
our audience today, thank you for joining us here today. My usual question is just have a moment to ponder what was the biggest takeaway for you today from this episode. And then if it feels right to you, pop it into the comments. And as usual, always look out for ways to grow your mental fitness in a conscious way. Till next time. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Mental Fitness, the Gateway to Success. If you have stories of how mental fitness has benefited you that you are happy to share, go to my website, mikhail.nz, click on podcast and fill in the guest application form. If you want direct support from me utilizing my 40 years of mental fitness learning and practice, email me at coach@mikhail.nz or message me on LinkedIn. Any feedback, review, share, follow, like, or any other good stuff is, of course, appreciated. Thank you for listening to Mental Fitness, the Gateway to Success podcast. I'm your host, Mikhail Nelson.